You are listening to the audio portion of the QB Power Hour webinar series. The QB Power Hour is a free biweekly webinar series for accounting professionals presented by Michelle Long and Dan DeLong, who are very passionate about the industry, QuickBooks, and apps that integrate with QuickBooks. You can find out all the details about the webinar series at qbpowerhour.com. So without further ado, here's Michelle and Dan.
All right. Well, welcome to another QB Power Hour. Today we're going to be talking about leveraging partnerships to grow your practice. Michelle, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Michelle Long, CPA with an MBA in entrepreneurship, owner of Long for Success, author of a few different books. Check them out on Amazon, and glad to have you guys joining us today. Thrilled to see you all on this tax deadline day for corporates. So
yeah, we're assuming that we're not going to have quite as many as as we normally do on a Tuesday, just because there's probably some last minute filers. You both were CPAs. Did you do I know, Carrie, you don't like taxes at all. Did you ever do taxes?
Yes, I did. Enough to know that I don't like taxes. I don't know how you feel, Michelle, but no matter what, you get sucked in, whether you do the taxes or not, in helping people clean up their books.
Yep.
Or this is when they want to update their software or update their books. So
yeah. And I do not miss the tax days. I do not miss the 100 hours a week and stuff. You know, you get to see your husband Sunday afternoon, and that's it.
Not fun.
If it wasn't,
go ahead.
If it wasn't for deadlines, the taxes would never get filed, right?
That's true. That's true.
And they really still don't. So,
but lots of respect and admiration for all those doing taxes this time of year. So,
for sure.
Yeah. And of course, my name is Dan DeLong, the co-host today. Owner Dandwidth, worked at Intuit about 18 years, and also the co-host with Carrie, who is our guest today. So join us tomorrow for a workshop Wednesday, where we'll be talking about actually payroll fundamentals, something that Michelle doesn't want to talk about.
Nobody does.
Talk about
it's like taxes.
Tech editor of QBO for Dummies, and this is like a top 10 ProAdvisor social media reunion. All three of us here on the panel have actually earned this award.
I should go get my award.
Yeah. Carrie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am the founder of Complete Business Group, and we have actually gotten the award of having the top partner program underneath our reseller. I'm in the reseller channel. I actually got #1 partner of the year. I'm not real good about talking about all my accolades, so there they are. I don't brag much, but should.
Even though you have a slide about bragging about yourself.
Yeah, I know. I don't talk. I just get real humble about it, but it's I love being in this industry. I have loved and adored and cuddled up with QuickBooks since it was launched when we were using Quicken to run our books, and said, this is going to be the next superstar. And I was right. I told my dad, who was in IT, and he said, no, Macola is good. And I said, no, it's not. So we had this war of battle of software, and I think we finally came out ahead. But anyway, and thank you for having me. I also co-host with our weekly workshops with Dan, and we have our learning portal at School of Bookkeeping.
Awesome. So a little bit about the QB Power Hour. We're still not eligible for CPE. So those of you that are hoping to join us for CPE credit, we don't do that anymore. We are looking at other ways to be able to maybe leverage that, but not anything right now. So today we're going to be talking about leveraging partnerships to grow your practice. Next time we'll be having some guests from Intuit talking about the desktop migration, migrating from desktop to QuickBooks Online. It does seem a little odd that, as Hector said in this last week, that Intuit is cannibalizing itself by taking its own customer base and turning it into something else. But it actually does have there's some thought behind it, and we want to talk about that, and as well as some best practices for moving a client from desktop to online. Next time after that, we'll be talking about automating sales tax payments. One thing that people love to do is sales tax, right? I mean, we're talking about tax forms and income tax. That's
Tax
like right
excellent.
below, right? Right below as far as preference to to do sales tax form filing as well, but we can automate that. We'll have Bookkeep and as well as maybe Davo will be joining us as well to talk about a solution that they have. And then Practice Ignition will be coming back to do a deep dive into the actual software itself after that. So, of course, everything as far as PDFs, the slides, the recordings, the podcasts, and all other resources are at qbpowerhour.com/resources. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have specific questions for things that we're talking about today, please put them in the Q&A section. If you have comments, things you want to just say, because I see the chat is bursting here. If you have comments to say, just put those in the chat, like where you're from, those types of things. Hello from. That's a good chat. But if you have a specific question about, maybe something that was said so that we can address it on the webinar itself, or maybe even after, put that in the Q&A. And of course, we have the handouts as well as the webinar archive on qbpowerhour.com. So, Carrie, what are we going to talk about today in our learning objectives? Ooh, this is very formal.
I know it is, isn't it? We're going to talk about some different things that we run into as ProAdvisors. One is, what's the hardest thing we do is up against? It's Intuit marketing, and Intuit marketing is pushing QBO, and we don't hear about desktop. So there's so many products out there that need to fit your client. So if you can take that marketing out of your hat, then what do? How do you find the right fit for your client? Partnering up on large projects. Are they too big for you? Do you know what you're doing? That sort of thing. And then we're going to give you some to-dos at the end, so you can start going into, targeting some concepts around how to partner up and some best practices around that, what to do.
Awesome. We'll start off with a poll, because we always like to know who's joining us today. Like, what versions of QuickBooks do you support for your clients? Because just as you said, Carrie, there is a vast array. If you go to QuickBooks.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom and look at all of the possible QuickBooks products, that footer at the bottom of the QuickBooks website is about as big as the rest of the website, right?
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things, though, Carrie, you mentioned the Intuit advertising and stuff, and I guess I've always looked at it from a different perspective. I love the fact that Intuit spends tens of millions of dollars advertising QuickBooks and everything. I can't afford that kind of marketing budget, but yet that gets all these people wanting QuickBooks. And just like Dan said, when you go, which one's right for me, or they get into one and they realize it's not, it drives a lot of business for us in answering their questions and supporting them to help them choose the right one or get into the right one and things like that. So I look at it as a benefit for us. You're right, though. Sometimes we have to say, well, it's not really as easy as, they make it seem, but we can help you with that to make it easy for you, so I see it as a benefit to driving business.
It definitely drives business. It definitely drives business. Occasionally, what I find is that if someone comes to me that's too big for QuickBooks Online, then there's a lot of discussion around it where there might not be the right fit. So I have to, and they haven't heard of desktop, so it's still there. That's where I kind of have to fix the confusion part.
Yeah. All right, so looks like a lot of folks joining us today are QuickBooks Online heavy, but that doesn't mean that, as Carrie loves to say, desktop is not dead.
Oh, wait, add number 2 and 3 up.
Now, there you go. And that does exceed a few point of sale folks in there, and as well as something else. All right, so let's go ahead and press on here. So what is this the right product? Because we're talking about the vast array, right fitting, QuickBooks, the right version of QuickBooks for the solution. And to Michelle's point, the marketing about QuickBooks, QuickBooks, when you see it on a commercial or on the Super Bowl, they don't say QuickBooks Online. They don't say QuickBooks Point of Sale. They don't say QuickBooks Enterprise. They just say QuickBooks, right? Which then takes you to the website, and then all you see is QuickBooks Online. But there are other options, right?
Yes, there are lots of different options. So, and then one thing that that I learned along the way is that the concept around QuickBooks Online is completely different than the concept around the desktop and enterprise version. Where to me, the enterprise and the desktop version, they've got a lot of really cool workflows and things that are connected. All the documents are interconnected. So, and the design of it was you'd say, I want this feature, I want this feature, and I want this feature. And over the years, they have stuffed a lot of features in there. So it's big, it's really, really, really good with job costs. It's great with inventory. Like at any time you can, if you have the data in there, you can see what your inventory is doing. But when they created QuickBooks Online, it was meant to be the hub of your accounting. So it's meant to hold all of your financial information. And what they want you to do is to add plugins around QuickBooks Online. So it's a different design concept as far as those two main things go. So you have to navigate that. Then there's some real key differences. If you have a customer that needs sales orders, for example, that's not in online. Now it may be in a plugin. So it's just a different way of approaching it.
Yeah, and to help with all of that, Carrie and I, mostly I, created.
Hey, I helped edit it.
Yeah. Created a QuickBooks chooser that we put on schoolofbookkeeping.com to help guide people to, the right fit, right version, right flavor of QuickBooks. Because, you take QuickBooks Online, there's 4 flavors. There's, Pro, Premier, Enterprise for desktop. There's, point of sale. And then, to your point, you have, the desktop that you can put in the cloud. That's kind of like a best of both, because there may be a better fit for doing things not natively inside of QuickBooks that you may not you may eliminate some of the additional add-ons in that whole process. So we've put a QuickBooks chooser to help guide you through those specific questions that you can go through and just answer the questions to your client. Answer your workflow questions to your client, which will help hopefully suggest the right version of QuickBooks.
Right. Yeah. The hosting, I sort of glossed over that. That's the ability to take desktop enterprise, not online, but to put it in the cloud so that you can access it from anywhere. Okay.
And then, there's this term that's thrown around, mid-market.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about that term. Michelle, some of the folks over at the summit kind of brought that up, as mid-market's the kind of like the new buzzword for throwing it in line with QuickBooks. What are your thoughts, Carrie, about mid-market or Michelle?
Well, I was just going to say the challenge is, and we did talk about this some last week, as you mentioned, Dan, the challenge is everybody defines it differently. And it's not really a set different definition. Once a client hits this many in sales or this much in number of employees, that now they're mid-market. It's not about that. It's about their business operations and the needs of that business, not a strict number that, once you get at this number of sales, now you're mid-market. I mean, Carrie, would you agree that it's more their operations and their needs?
I think you're absolutely right. At the mid-market, it's going to have workflows. You're going to have your salesperson, somebody that handles accounts payable, somebody handles accounts receivable, and all the workflow around that. That's what makes it more complicated. And generally, if somebody is in mid-market, I'm finding that they have more complex needs. They want to track inventory, or they might have, this is a scary one, when they have manufacturing and assembly and stuff like that. So they really are, and they have big sales. So they have a bigger budget. They have bigger expectations. Sometimes they're too big for us, and we have to gently say, and call it. Because you don't want to throw somebody in, even Diamond Enterprise, if you know that they're going to outgrow it in a year or two. So it's very complicated. And the thing that I found as a challenge when it was just me and one employee is setting up a customer in this market properly, training them and all that. it took me down off of being able to take other calls for, a month or two. So it's quite a challenge for a small entrepreneur or ProAdvisor practice.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to put them in something that they're gonna outgrow just because you like QuickBooks.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this is my favorite part of what Intuit does well, is that their QuickBooks payments, and I've heard so many people screaming, it's so expensive, and it's really, really easy to figure out how much they're going to charge at this point. They've made it transparent. It's literally whether you swipe or key a card in, and whether you pay monthly or not, whether you hit a limit. But so beyond that, yes, we get them a better price, which people are like, oh, no way, but you do. But the integration is amazing. Like if you think about trying to reconcile someone's books that has Square, they swipe $20 and then 1950 or 1863 comes over on your books. You can't match all that up without a lot of clicking and adjusting. Where QuickBooks payments, if you get it set up right and you have the workflow right in any product, it's beautiful. Same with the payroll, the same thing. Point of sale is another one. It's all based on the setup and understanding of the software. Now, I know 2 people said they use point of sale. That's a really good, robust product, but it's not like when QuickBooks first came out, you could just roll your sleeves up and learn it overnight. Point of sale is a different beast altogether, where basically they take that inventory piece and put it in retail for you, but it comes back to your desktop, and desktop fills in the missing pieces of your pie. That was yesterday, Pie Day. And then,
nice tie-in, Carrie.
You like that? That just came out of nowhere. And then field service management. I'm not an expert in that. There's a lot of people, not everybody. To me, it's like point of sale. There's just a few that understand how it works, but they love it. They love the integration. So.
And that, that's the bottom line there, is that if you use the integrated services, you're going to get more out. And in theory, it's supposed to save you time, right? I mean,
yes.
And I got excited about some of the things that we saw at the gallery walk last week, of some of the things that are coming with regards to some of the integrations, because they can see that. And that's where Intuit really excels, is being able to deeply gather or extract some of the things that things get done then automatically when it comes to either payments or payroll or reports that come out after that when you're done. Michelle, you were saying?
Well, I was just going to say, we're talking about leveraging partnerships and everything. And as Carrie said, a few specialize in point of sale or field service management. And I think that's the key. I, at one point, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I thought, I'm going to get into point of sale. And I went and I got the certification, did this. I had 1 or 2 clients. I quickly realized this is a whole nother beast. It is a huge time commitment. And if you don't want to really specialize or focus in that area, then partner with others who have that expertise. And that's what I decided to do, because it was much more complicated and everything. So from the 4 that are listed here, with payments, that's easy for us to understand and do the integration and work with and all that. With payroll, Intuit offers the full service payroll where we don't have to do anything. But with those last 2, you really should look for other ProAdvisors that have that area of expertise, leverage them and make a partnership with them as client needs it and things like that. So I agree with you, Carrie. There's a few that specialize, but not a lot of us want to delve into that, really deeply.
And a lot of people are talking about in the chat about point of sale. And when you're talking point of sale and just understanding the nature of the beast when it comes to where inventory lies, it's best to work with the desktop because it's a desktop product.
Yeah.
It kind of eliminates some of the flashy the flashiness of retail, right? Because you now have to have a Windows-based PC, at the register. So the cloud hosting options, are kind of limited now when you want to do that, wanting to send the data to QBO, that adds another level of complexity when it comes to that, because it's designed to work with desktop, Pro, Premier, Enterprise, and then you have some of those companies where they're doing wholesale stuff with the inventory out of QuickBooks, and then they want to do stuff at the brick and mortar retail, so that's not something that you want to tread lightly on, when you're taking on some of those clients.
And you don't want to have to figure these things out yourself, because we have some partners that have figured it out and created an app to do what you just described. So, either pick it as a niche or partner up, because it's a beast. How I learned point of sale? I worked for my dad's company, an IT firm, and he sold it. And I got sent over there because it said QuickBooks. They said, Carrie knows how to do it. She's a ProAdvisor. So I ended up saying, listen, I can't charge you anymore for this. I'm just going to be a free employee for 2 weeks. And I just I rolled my sleeves up and learned it. But I didn't have enough of a demand to make that my niche. I figured it out. I'm rusty on it. I know what it can do, but as far as getting in the nitty gritty of it, the only thing I do know, this is really cool though, when I was doing my TWN interview, you can connect GoPayment to QuickBooks Point of Sale and sync certain inventory items. And when you ring them up on a GoPayment, say an iPad, it will relieve your inventory. This is a very unknown. Why we don't know this out loud, I don't know.
They didn't have the marketing dollars to to do that like they do now, right?
But Square does, so they get the hit. So,
as you mentioned, QuickBooks is the ecosystem for a small business, but it doesn't do everything. So sometimes it's good to have a plan B when it comes to that. So let's talk about some of these things that you've discovered over the years that you recommend.
So we use that. We're still on Enterprise hosted. And I use Bill.com. That's how we pay our partners. It's good. It's not perfect, but it's better than, what's built in. I really like it. Bill and Pay is an invoice, I don't use it for bills. I know Bill.com is so confusing. Bill.com I use for vendors, paying bills, and Bill and Pay I use for invoicing it, because it just takes your QuickBooks payment and e-invoicing and all the freebies you get when you sign up to one more layer of super cool features: paying on sales orders, paying over time, auto renewal, recurring, updating your credit card, customer's credit. A lot of really good features, for an additional $20, $30 a month. We all know, everyone knows QuickBooks Time T-sheets, and it's going through its journey right now. Transition. So hopefully it'll come back on the other side, back like we loved it. Avalara is my go-to for sales tax integration. I know there's other options, but they seem to be the Cadillac choice. Webgility, Dan can speak to that better than me. I know what it does. Connecting shopping carts to either flavor.
Yeah.
Do they do QBO still? Okay.
Yep. They can do any flavor of QuickBooks, even point of sale.
And Bookkeep is a new to me tool that allows you to connect different things to your QBO and eliminates that double entry, because that's one of the problems I find, is that sometimes the bank feeds are coming in twice, and I get frustrated with that. But whatever programs they connect up with, which Dan, what's a handful of them that they work with?
Yeah, the other online sales channels that they work with, but that's a QBO version of Webgility when you want to summarize it, right? Like, so one of the advantages of Webgility is to bring over the detail. If you're using QuickBooks as your source of truth for inventory, then Webgility is our go-to recommendation. But if it's just a summary, then Bookkeep, and they're using QuickBooks Online, to Bookkeep would be the way to do that. Kathy mentioned in the Q&A why you prefer Bill.com over Melio. And that's something that actually we've been trying to implement, is the Melio options inside of, again, to your point, you're using Enterprise to track all your business. So it's a desktop product, and Melio is relatively new.
Right. And I think it took away it. I think right now at this point, Melio doesn't have all the features Bill.com, because I can select lots and lots of bills to pay in one payment rather than one at a time.
Yeah, that was the deal breaker, I think, when it came to that. When you have a bill, you have to make one payment in Melio. You can't summarize all your bills into one payment, which is
when they fix that, then we'll look at it again. So.
Right, because you can't beat the price of Melio, free-ish as they call it.
Right, and it doesn't. The approval, Bill.com has that approval part, which I don't even use that part, but it would be a good, as we grow and we have different workflows, we may add an approver before it's paid. So it does have good features. Now, Bill.com does do invoicing and stuff, but it doesn't use QuickBooks payments. So I prefer QuickBooks payments. I think it's good pricing and integration and so forth. But so that's a little weird thing there. Bill and Pay does.
There is approvals, and there are approval workarounds and ways to do that. If you're using QuickBooks Online, if you're QuickBooks Online, which for your purposes you don't use. But if you're using QuickBooks Online and Melio, you can add outside of QuickBooks the approval workflow. And had Melio on the QB Power Hour. They talked a little bit about that. So Easy Cloud, what is that?
So Easy Cloud is actually the hosting provider we use. Now, everyone loves Right Networks, and I know not everyone has their preferred choice. Right Networks just came out with new pricing, and they have 3 levels. It's just like payroll, like Core, Premier, and Elite. And the difference
deluxe,
it's Premier, like gold, silver, platinum. And so, but there's 3 choices. And the first one, of course, doesn't give you, but maybe Bill.com as an add-on. The second one gives you some of their preferred choices. So if it was like Bill.com and some other things that I commonly use, the middle, I always go to the middle flavor anyway, would work. But we had a customer that came in and they needed some FedEx something integration. One of the 10 users needed it. And Right Networks is like, okay, then you go in the elite tier, and the pricing just priced them out. So we were able to put them on Easy Cloud, and only that one user paid the extra fee for that add-on. So the pricing's more flexible. And they just have more. Right Networks is pretty rigid with who they let in the gates. So we usually lead with Right Networks, but if it's not a right fit, I'm not going to, just sell it because that's an Intuit QB Cloud thing. I'll go over to Easy Cloud. That's what we use. And the difference in the login is it's easy because you just use a URL to go into it. You don't have to have remote desktop connector loaded on your computer. So it's easy getting into it. I know there's other hostings. You just want to make sure they're really secure and up to date. We left one that wasn't, and we lost a day's worth of stuff because they weren't backing up and they weren't compliant. So right now I don't want to get hacked.
Probably not a good idea.
No.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about being a QuickBooks solution provider, because this was something that a lot of ProAdvisors that I talked to, when I worked at Intuit, they just didn't know about. So tell us a little bit about that and fill folks in on this option.
So I actually didn't know about it either until 2008, and I had been a ProAdvisor since the ProAdvisor program around when it launched. And I had no idea there was this option. I actually stumbled upon it online on their website, and then applied to be a reseller. And then I got launched into this program of selling, and I was like, oh, I'm not a salesperson, but you guys, I met like a lot of people that were teaching at that time. Woodard was like the one, Scaling New Heights was out, and then some of those roaming people teaching, were in this program. I'm like, wait, you guys look familiar. So it's this teeny tiny little sales channel at Intuit, which most of the people in the program are ProAdvisors. So we're given ProAdvisor pricing. We're given a whole, notebook of products we can sell. and it takes a few years to figure out how you're getting paid. So merchant service, you get residuals, enterprise, you get residuals, QBO, you get bounties, payroll, you get a commission. I mean, there's bounty, commission, to me is about the same thing. They do send you leads, then that can be questioned on who gets the most leads. It's probably who's selling the most. They have to pick who gets the leads. Some of the leads are good, some of them are bad. You just never know. You have to meet sales criteria. There have been times when you didn't, but they've tightened that up. They do give you some, marketing stuff, and it's similar to what you can get as a ProAdvisor. But it basically, to me, it takes your ProAdvisor to another level, but it changes your focus from just simply support to, okay, how can I make money on products I'm recommending anyway? Because that's the way I sell. If I don't use it and love it, you can tell, because you heard me, I love my enterprise. So, but Dan, thank goodness Dan knows how to speak to QBO, because when you're in the right fit, you want the customer. I don't want to jam them in what I like. I want to be knowledgeable in what I do know.
Right. And, as far as, I worked there and I knew about it. And there was always from the internal side, it was like, there was this nebulous, what is that,
And you were with a lot of them too in Tucson.
Yeah. And then there was this, they started by calling it the Intuit reseller program. And just that word reseller just seemed like, what, wait, dude. And when I left Intuit, I looked into it because I was like, okay, well, I know there's an opportunity here for all of these things. And I looked into it, and I looked at the program. I couldn't really make heads or tails. I still didn't understand if I had to buy stuff to resell it. Like if I actually had to have inventory of QuickBooks licenses, because of that term was still being bantered about being a reseller, which meant to me that I was going to buy it at a discount and then sell it and then pocket the difference.
And it's gone through so many changes and along the journey. And the reason for it is because software used to be a box product you put in your closet. So along the journey, it turned into subscription, and it's kind of chaotic for you to buy inventory of subscriptions sitting on the shelf that you're paying for to turn around. So it's basically you're advising, providing the good pricing and executing the sale through Intuit, which is the better way to do it, because then the customer's credit card's on file, not yours. And if their credit card conks, which happens all the time, their software will turn off or whatever, and you don't have to be the middle person. That's the way I prefer to do it. You don't have to be the middle person around that.
So you could actually do that where you buy it, you buy it on your credit card and then you recoup the billing however you prefer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually did that because they recommended doing that with Right Networks, and I got burned a few times too many. And at $55 a seat, I was like, this is crazy. The customer's not paying me, their card crapped out, but they still have access to their hosting. So it was too chaotic for me. But the sales criteria is what sort of scared me, because I'm not, sales isn't my nature, but recommending products that I use and love is that you can't get me to stop talking about. So that's a win-win to me. If you're passionate enough about the products that you do use and love, naturally you're going to sell them.
Yeah. And that's how I came to be introduced to you, was through one of your partners.
Yes.
Who bumped into me at QB Connect and handed me one of your flyers and said, hey, you need to partner with Carrie. And when I talked to you, I was like, oh, you take off all the headaches of dealing directly with Intuit. All I got to do is just share what I already do. And it's like, oh, okay, well, this is a no-brainer then. All right. So some of the maddening things about navigating the QuickBooks promotions. Tell us a little bit about that, Carrie.
So because we are ProAdvisors and resellers, we get the best pricing. We get some lifetime discounts off of enterprise. So as far as, Intuit will throw out these promos. We can sell things out of promo. We can sell things with the perpetual discount, which I prefer that. You could run the numbers and see which makes more sense. Selecting the right product, I think, is really hard for people because you can hear in my voice that if I'm using it, I love it. It's hard to find the right product for the customer. So you have to be real careful that you're not jamming them in the wrong thing, but we have access to the whole menu of options. We did find this last bullet point that we have is all around QBO. There is sort of some chaos around when a customer buys QBO, we get these promotional discounts that are great. They're for 12 months. And when they upgrade and downgrade, they fall off, or we have to call our contact. And it's a lot of time suck to keep the customer in the right product. So Dan has looked at it differently, like just start them off high. And if it's more than you need, you're getting 50% off or 30% or whatever it is. After those 12 months, downgrade them because you're going to be hitting MSRP anyway. So there's a lot of things, as you can tell, that we've had to say, wait a minute. I mean, I get new pricing on this product we can add. I have to sit back and really study it so that I can turn around and explain it. It's like learning a foreign language, I think.
Right. You need a Duolingo app for QuickBooks promotions.
Yes, you definitely do.
All right. So we're going to throw out a curveball here. So we're talking about products, but now support, right? Like, do you struggle to find the right answers? I mean, even just in our Q&A, can you recommend a YouTube dealing with AR, AP, and credit cards? That is, well, I would think Michelle's YouTube is, you build a YouTube on dealing with credit card processing, right?
Well, I did have some stuff in there on that, but I was just answering that question. There is a lot of stuff out there on the proper workflows in QuickBooks for entering these things. And if people haven't done it already, check out qbtrainingevents.com. Intuit has Intro to QuickBooks for Accountants. And then, of course, it has all the certification training. There's now payroll certification training out there.
That's great stuff, too.
And there's webinars on advisory services. I know I'm doing a Q&A on one of those right after this one. So there is a lot of free training out there, but like Dan said, do you struggle to find it? So qbtrainingevents.com is a great resource. Schoolofbookkeeping.com is a great resource. Hector Garcia has lots of great YouTube videos. So it just takes a little Googling, and you can always go to our Facebook group, QB Power Users. Dan and I and Hector are all out there. Carrie's out there frequently, and you can post questions, and there's thousands of people who can help and help direct you to the right place. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that that we've been trying to do at School of Bookkeeping is put it all in one place, because I always lived under the adage, I didn't need to know all the answers. I just needed to know where to go to find them.
Yep.
And more often, once the Intuit kind of did this priority circle option with yes,
okay.
with on-demand training,
it goes.
It seemed like a lot of the external answers kind of went away. And it took a small degree in Google searching to actually find the articles that are in the region that you want, right? Like Hector was talking about at the summit. He found this somebody sent an awesome article about importing a journal entry in QuickBooks Online, and he was like, "Oh, finally!" And it turns out it was Canada or UK or it was a different region of QuickBooks Online, and he was very upset or bonkers, as he likes to say.
Well, and one other thing that I would add when it comes to searching and finding what you're looking for, try DuckDuckGo. Because with Google, the algorithms are so skewed and there's so many paid advertisements and things like that. With DuckDuckGo, you get more true organic results, and you can skip some of the paid and the monkeying that some people do to try to, game the Google algorithm. So DuckDuckGo is actually a great way to help with your searches. So
I did not know that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's more natural and organic.
Well, since I have Dan on fast speed dial text, and there was one day I was working on my own books because my bookkeeper has had COVID 3 times. So I had to step in and go backwards some. But I said, there's got to be a better way to deal with PayPal. And of course, I have desktop and it's hosted and all the drama around that. And Dan goes, I found something for you. And he unearthed a Hector Garcia video. And so I slogged through it and twice because I was like, wait, I must have missed something. And I figured it out and got it. And I was able to trick it out and pull it in like a feed. So that was, but I didn't do my DuckDuckGo or my Google search. I just did Dan. But I was able to get an answer. And it was for something so obscure. I mean, who at this point you should just give up that PayPal is going to be painful no matter where you are and hand key that stuff in. But he had a way to do it. So save me some time and frustration.
Well, on the PayPal integration, I will just add there are some great integrations and improvements coming soon. Dan and I were able to preview a few things at the gallery walk. So look forward to some of that.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about how you partner on some of these projects, because as you said, if you take on a project that takes you out of commission, you are literally out of commissions because you can't talk to new customers.
You're going through this, So if you're a reseller and you take on these projects, you're not selling anything. You're making money on support. It's this roller coaster of fees. This is a big topic at all the conferences, and identifying is it niche? I always say it wrong.
Niche or niche, tomato.
So, Michelle and I were talking about, we just dove in and figured out how to do point of sale. And then we realized from trial and error that this is not going to be our niche or niche. So, looking back when I went out on my own, the way I figured it out was like, I looked back over the past year over customers this is back when, the find a ProAdvisor and you'd get random calls from whatever. This is way before it wasn't quite as organized. So I got calls from auto shops. I got calls from real estate. I got calls from people that wanted to do job costing, inventory. And so going through, I would look back and I was like, okay, I like that one. Why did I like that particular project? Well, probably because the people were really, really nice and easy to work with, and they were very appreciative of my knowledge. That's a big one. But what was it about it that I really liked? Like, start to dig into, I enjoyed figuring out and showing them how you can make QuickBooks work for you. And if they're trying to see job cost, I figured out how to slice and dice and just showed them how to do it. And so I thought, on that, I would say I really love showing someone how to do job cost. Is that my thing though? I know how to do it, but I don't know how to take it to the second level. So if I wanted to, I could just specialize in that and get to be the guru of that. And go into certifications and take classes. There's a lot of experts out there in these different areas. Always, obviously, give your best customer service. And like I did with that point of sale person, while you're learning, it was kind of hard though, going in and saying, I'm not going to bill you. Because you don't want to appear so, you kind of have to remain professional, but sometimes you have to give away some time to gain back. Cause to me, that's how I learned, is from real life things. And then using these resources to get up to speed real fast, doing your DuckDuckGo and figuring out, or, paying a couple hours to, like Diane Gilson's real big on the job cost stuff, which is what I ended up doing on a project many years ago. I just needed this little minutia, tiny little problem around workers' comp. And I couldn't, I was struggling so bad. I couldn't charge the customer for that. But all of a sudden I gained that knowledge. And then, that was one niche that I liked. And charging enough. Oh my, that should have been a polling question, Dan. And then nobody charges enough. It doesn't seem like they're charging like they're an employee. And I remember working at a CPA firm, and whatever he paid me, he multiplied it by 3, and that's what he billed me out at. So figure out what you're worth if you work for somebody and multiply it by 3. I mean, just don't go out there charging $20 an hour. You're not going to gain any respect. And if you're getting a niche area, you can go, I mean, to me, 150, 250, some 3. I mean, you can go high. Now you might drive customers away, but you've got to cover all this time you gave away, all the energy, the certifications, the classes, and
recoup your educational costs.
And Carrie, one thing that I might add, as opposed to, doing it free or something, if it is the type of thing that you want to learn that and you want that experience and that expertise to help you down the road and in the future, you might just be upfront with the client, say, hey, this is my first, let's say, e-commerce integration, whatever. And so I'm going to be learning a little bit. And because of that, I'm going to give you a discounted rate of 50% or something like that. Yeah. In exchange, I would like you to write up a testimony or something when we get through this, so that you can tell them up front that it's kind of a learning situation for you. So you're not going to charge them as much, but you're not doing it free either. It's kind of a win-win. The client gets something out of it and you do too. So, that's an option as well. But I agree with you. Most of us are not charging enough.
Yeah, exactly.
And what happens when you're outside your wheelhouse or your area of expertise? There's sales tax involved with e-commerce. I didn't realize that. What do you do?
Well, so what my was getting a call from someone who was they were in real estate, and it was serious real estate. Like we're talking about, they had investment properties and they wanted to track, and they wanted to know what they put into these investment properties. So when they went to turn around to sell them, what did they do? They were, and then they were doing rentals, and it was way beyond anything. Nonprofit's another one that makes me break out in hives. So there's projects that will make you think, and you don't have to take everything that comes across your desk, but rather than saying, I don't do that, build up your notebook of go-to people and that love that stuff. Nonprofit, you guys probably have a list of that, but who would you partner up with that knows how to do it? So you don't send the customer away with making them think that they're in some unusual niche. It's just not yours. I don't know if you've run into that. It's what's the topic that makes you go,
Yeah. Well, Carrie, you're totally right, because what's happened to us is everything has gotten so complex, and all these industries and the rules and regulations in various industries, it has gotten very complex, and it is impossible for us to know everything. But as Dan mentioned, I may not know the answers, but I know where to go to get them, and know who to go to. So, if you haven't met people yet, like I know, let's say Greg Bosson in nonprofits, or I know, other people in different industries. If you don't know somebody like that, again, that's a great place where that Facebook group, you can network and get to know other people, or you can ask people, hey, I need somebody in the property management. Do you all know anybody? And you will get lots of recommendations. People are very willing to share their ideas, for better or worse, in there. Yeah. So, you can develop those relationships and find that expertise that is outside of your wheelhouse. And for me, Carrie, that's what really helped me build my practice around QuickBooks. Once I decided I didn't want to do taxes anymore, I was able to exchange referrals with tax professionals, and they knew I could do the QuickBooks setup, training, cleanup, whatever. I wasn't going to steal their tax client. So we would exchange referrals. So if you've got a niche and somebody else has a niche in nonprofits, you can exchange referrals with other people. So leverage those relationships and those partnerships.
Exactly.
That's one of the reasons that Michelle and I wanted to do, like a series on niche nuances, and have those professionals come on and talk about some of those things that are unique. So one, if that's something that you're interested in, you can start to learn more about those nuances about those industry types, or you can go back and watch those things and reach out to them, right? Like if you have a real estate client and you want to just refer it off, you can go and look at and work with those individuals as well.
And one thing that I would say around that I recommend, and it's hard because we're all so soaked up and pressed for time, because I think everybody is now saying, oh, I need to get my book straight. But I think, especially in the beginning of a relationship you're building with a partner, is, everybody has their way of delivering customer service, and not everybody's is going to be the same as yours. Is create a webinar call and eat your time on it. Just build that relationship and see how they perform with your customer, with your prospect. And then that builds up your confidence that, oh, when I send my customer over to Dan, I don't have to keep showing up and taking time. I know that he will take them to the end. Or you say, Dan got him so far, but I need to follow back up because I own the customer relationship. You have to kind of figure out that journey of how and who owns the customer. It's a little, I wish it was always, here it is, goodbye, but it's not always that.
Not always that easy.
Yeah.
So what do you do when your calendar is full? Because time is the only commodity that we have a limited resource on. So what do you suggest there, Carrie?
Well, yeah. So obviously find somebody that has time. And then you have this whole thing, whether you can trust them from here it is, or will I circle back to it? Even if it is one that you pass to somebody, but you circle back with, like you might say you sell point of sale to somebody and you send it off to somebody that's their niche. When they're done with the point of sale part, it may come back to you, but that still saved you some time. Half the project is done. Okay, come back to me when you're done and we'll pull all the financials back together, hook up your payroll, your payments, and get the desktop part working, and then off you go. So, partnering doesn't necessarily mean, this is now your client. It can mean, let's do this together, but you do this part and I do this part. Or even, hiring data entry, hiring your kid or your neighbor or somebody local or who cares if they're local anymore? We have Zoom.
Yeah. Well, and
hire it out.
And, Carrie, another idea is, let's say I want to start specializing in a certain area, like point of sale or something. I could contact somebody who's an expert in this area and say, hey, look, you've got this expertise here. I don't have this expertise, but I want to learn it. Could we work together on this client so that I can learn from you? So you can try to do things like that. Or like you said, you can just say, hey, can you do this setup and integration and ongoing support when we have problems or issues with point of sale? But then I will take all the rest of the client relationship. So you can structure it for what works for you and whoever you're partnering with to meet the needs of the client. Yes. And that's one of the things. And that's one of the things I talk to my clients about is, I'm like the quarterback on the team. I may call the plays, but everybody has their own expertise. You know what I mean? Right. But I can pull the team together to meet the needs of the client. And that's what needs to be, center is, what does the client need and how do we get this job done for them?
I love that idea, that the shadowing idea. That's a really good way to do it, because you might be brand new and you want to learn how to do like conversions. You might want to shadow how it's done, and but have the customer's going to be paying the person doing it. You're just overlooking it so you can learn.
Yeah.
Setup and support. Oh, this is always the nebulous.
How much is it going to cost?
Yeah.
The customer thinks it should be $100. And this is a problem that I've run into when you're dealing with pricing of software. When you're talking about QBO versus enterprise, the price point of enterprise is higher. So if you do this annual price times 3, that budget's a lot bigger than you do QBO times 3. For the year, but what people aren't realizing, it's QBO plus this times 3 is really your budget. So often we find that customers and ProAdvisors do not budget enough time to set up the file properly. And another rule of thumb is it takes like 3, I'm really into this times 3 times longer, which is what I actually did with my own books, 3 times longer to undo some corrections instead of having it done right in the beginning. It's much more painful. Sometimes it's better to just start over, but you have to, figure all that out. And it's back to, are you charging enough? I I am unusual on this flat pricing because with these setup projects, you don't know what you don't know until you get in it. And every single one is different. And when a customer thinks you're going to set up my QuickBooks, their expectations could be a whole lot different than what you're thinking. You might be thinking, I'll set up your chart of accounts. And they're thinking, I want you to take everything out of Mass 90 and drop it in beautifully in QuickBooks. And then away I go. An hour later, off to the races, running it just like I did before. And so those expectations and then the pricing is always a huge challenge.
Yeah, definitely. The expectation setting, I think, is the key part of that.
Mm-hmm.
When we deal a lot with data conversion, there's the expectation of, oh, I just give you my file, and like you said, magically everything just matches up perfectly. And that certainly isn't the case when some programs will allow for multiple AR and AP on the same transaction, and you try to bring that transaction into QuickBooks. We all know that is a no-no in desktop, right? So, how does that look once it's actually done in the conversion, right? So setting that expectation that, okay, this is what you're going to get, and this is what I don't know I'm going to get when you give me this file. So there's a lot of unknowns that we need to budget and plan for.
What's funny is that years ago, when people would go from paper and pencil to software, they did not seem to understand what was involved. So now going from software to software seems to be smoother. I mean, it still has nuances, but from paper to software was like, they just did not. I'm glad we're past a lot of that.
Right. So we've got some resources here. We want to talk a little bit about these. We are coming up on the top of the hour, and we still have another section to get through. So.
Oh, I know. I get so. So we have a Facebook group that's managed by the School of Bookkeeping people, ABO, which stands for Accountants, Businesses, and Business Owners.
Accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners.
There it is.
I knew it was something with a B. And then we have our new platform of School Bookkeeping, where we have taken the content into 3-minute size content, so that you can pick what you need to learn rather than watching the whole hour. You can kind of navigate at your will. We have the partner program, or you can partner under partners like us to at least make money recommending something that you're already doing and not leaving money on the table, so to speak. And then the ProAdvisor training, as Michelle has pointed out, if you haven't looked at it lately, it is phenomenal. It is just chock full of great stuff. I just stumbled over the payroll part. We've never had payroll resources like this. And it takes you to, from the beginning and the end to what do you do and what's payroll.
So what do you do now to implement these new ideas, right? So talking about this client review.
Yeah. So go through your existing client base and see if there's anybody that you haven't touched base with, and find out if there's anything else they need. Are they ready to go? Are they ready to try online? Are they, service industry? Are they something that would benefit from some of the newer tools out there? Try to integrate, and, and start making your go-to list of partners. And I highly recommend that, as you're building your list, that you join those calls so your customer knows that you're invested in it. And once you feel like, oh, I can, I've got Michelle as my partner, I'm just going to hand her the ball and she'll run with it. But, not every partner is, but it still can help you save time. Invest in yourself and go to the conferences. They're huge. Do them online, get certified. Make sure your social media stuff is all updated. That's really painful to do, but do it. Brag. I'm bad about this. Brag about your accomplishments, your awards. Like when you're talking to your clients too, say that reminds me of a so-and-so customer that had the same thing. I know how to help you. There we go. And we just said, I just jumped ahead. I just said everything on that slide. join a partner program of some sort, several, many. It's just join something. If there's products you're recommending and they offer a partner program, then join it. And from those partner programs, often, not always, there are Facebook groups and different places where you can ask questions.
And so one of the things that you're doing in your business is building a partnership of partner programs. Right? So as somebody maybe joins your partner program, they're also a partner with some of those things that you already recommended.
Right.
So it takes a lot of the headaches of not just being a QuickBooks solution provider, but also the partnerships with other programs as well. So you take all they have to do is just recommend the products and figure out how to order these things or pass the referral or however you want to manage that partnership, and then they recoup when something happens.
Right. And we chase down the payments and stuff. And it's, as you can imagine, Intuit's very complicated with their different channels. And then the ones we bring in, it's a lot of work. But so because of that, we do 50-50 to cover our admin time. But it is quite a challenge. If you join a partner program, you've got to track and make sure you got paid for that sale. 9 times out of 10, you won't. So,
Gotcha. So I'll throw out the last poll question. Would you like to learn more about being a QSP? So there's really 3 choices: or yes, I'm already aligned with one, or I don't accept commissions, because as a CPA, Michelle and I did we already talk about that before?
I forgot.
I think that was before we started, but CPAs sometimes, because of the independence and objectivity and all that, we would have to disclose it and everything. So sometimes CPAs would rather just pass the discounts on and things like that. But Carrie, one of the things I think as someone who decided not to join the QSP program, or that used to be the IRP and an ISP, and now it's a QSP, but the reseller program, one of the big benefits I see, you all get a lot of extra training and webinars or workshops or seminars, whatever. You get a lot of information and support from Intuit on new features and new products and new rollouts and dates and details. And you have a lot of that deep product knowledge that, as ProAdvisors, we get a lot of free training as well, but you all get a lot of different in-depth training on that stuff. So there's a wealth of information that you all have that makes you a great resource, even if people decide not to be a QSP themselves.
Right. And we actually, one of our top partners says, I have to maintain that independence. So we share some big support leads because she has the bandwidth to do manufacturing and clients that, we can't. So it's a win-win. And we just have her marked as no commission, but she knows that we'll give her all that. We pass on all that knowledge as we learn it hot off the press. And she has a way of ordering software at a discount for her customer. So it's a win-win. So we have partners that don't want commission too. So that's not a problem, but we offer it for those that do.
Well, listen, I have to jump off to help with Q&A on one of those advisory webinars that Intuit offers. So thank you, Carrie and Dan, both of you. Thanks, everybody. And I'll see you all soon. Bye.
All right. And thanks, Carrie, for joining us. And we're at the top of the power hour.
Excellent.
So you made it. So thank you again for joining us, Carrie. And for those of you that might have some free time tomorrow, if you want to join us for our workshop on payroll fundamentals, join us again.
We make it
tomorrow.
fun. Trust me, we make it fun.
All right. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.
We hope you enjoyed listening to the QB Power Hour podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in our Facebook group. You can find those resources and much more at qbpowerhour.com.